Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? I hope you're well. Well, you can see I'm carrying on from the last video. I'm now in the shed, same day, for thoughts on month 61. Oh my goodness, it's the end of May. And I say every month, but I don't know where the month has gone. And this month, more than ever, I mean it. Where's this year gone? The other day I was talking to Paul? I think I was talking to Paul. We were on the phone and I was saying something about next week being the beginning of May. No, it's the beginning of June. I don't need to pay any attention to that. Yeah, it's the beginning of June. What happened? I don't know. So, oh my goodness, this might be a bit of a difficult one today, difficult for me, and I might get a little bit weepy along the way. That's okay. All emotions are allowed. Yeah, what a contrast to the end of last month. Obviously, the end of last month was a real high because it was my 5-year anniversary of my 5 years since my last paycheck. Yay! And so wrapped up in all of that is the channel, the garden, etc., and this little life that I've carved out for myself, which, you know what, for the most part, I love. So yeah, it was a real high. This month, honestly, I'm ending on a bit of a low, and I don't want to be a downer, and I don't want to be a neggy puss, and this is definitely not a pity party. This is not easy stuff, but it's my truth, it's where I'm at, and yeah, I do need to share it, because, you know, some of you may be in a similar position. Look, it's all about the garden at the moment, as I was sort of intimating in that last video. Right now, at the end of May, I'm doing jobs that I should have been doing at the end of April. And I have yet to do jobs that should have been done in April. And, you know, people out there may think, oh, there's no should, just do it when you know. But yeah, these jobs are should jobs, because things are time specific when it comes to gardening. You know, I can't just say, oh no, take your time, don't rush, don't worry, put your tomatoes in October. You know, can't, that doesn't work. There are some, you know, the thing about the garden is, yes, we are time bound with quite a lot of the tasks that need doing. So I'm really behind, have been since the second week of March, when I ended up hurting my back. Annoying. And like I said, none of this is a pity party. This is me kind of thinking out loud and talking to you about what's coming, because this is all about being practical and about being realistic. Because there's one thing I do know for absolute definite, and that is, if you want to live without a wage, if you want to go similar route, you have to be a practical person. Yeah, you have to be practical, you have to think, you have to use your wits, and you have to be realistic. So my realistic at the moment is, oh, I've got dust in my eye. That's not a euphemism for getting weepy. The realistic situation for me is, this is where I'm going to get upset. I'm really struggling with the garden. Really struggling. And I feel, so this, everything I'm going to talk about today, I've been feeling like this kind of all year, this year so far. I had some of these thoughts last year, kind of managed to muddle through it all. And by the way, I don't make decisions, certainly not massive life-changing decisions, overnight. I think about things, weigh up pros and cons, and yes, before any of the trolls jump down my throat and say, oh, you overthink things, you think too much, you know, when it's something as important as this, of course I have to think about it. I have to weigh up pros and cons. The point is, I'm starting to think that I can't manage this garden anymore. I can't bear it. The big issue is, obviously the big issue is my knees. And they're not going to get better, they're going to get worse. I know, surgeries are way off, there's nothing that can be done at the moment. Let's not even try and talk about fixing my knees. That will happen at some point, but even when I get knee surgery, it's going to take ages to get back on my people say it's a good 12 months after even one knee gets surgery on it before you're sort of up and about properly back to your old self again. The fact is, this decline is the decline has been exponential in the last couple of years alone. When I quit work 5 years ago, I was struggling to do a 13-hour shift on the ward. 2 years ago, I wouldn't even have been able to manage. I could maybe have managed 5 or 6 hours on the ward. Right now, I doubt I'd be able to manage much more than half an hour to an hour, if that. So yeah, the decline has been quite rapid. Anyway, so yeah, this is all because of my knees. And so, for example, just getting to the garden now getting here is a bit quicker than getting home. Getting home is always really, really slow, but the whole round trip is now taking me about 50 minutes. It used to take me 15. It was a 6-minute walk here, 8-minute walk home, slightly uphill. Now it's a 20-minute walk here, half an hour walk home sometimes. So that alone eats into the time I've got for the garden. And then, of course, by the time I get here, after the walk, I'm already like, ugh. So the perfect example is in that last video you saw, I was saying how I'd arrived in the garden at 10:30 and it was getting on for 1 o'clock when I'd finished doing that seeding. That's 2.5 hours. And in that time, all I've done is walk up and down a few times with watering cans on some of the beds, earth up the spuds, backwards and forward to the shed a couple of times for, for seeds, bits and pieces. I've seeded 2.5 beds. That's 2.5 hours to do that. So, and then by the time the walk to and from, which is best part of an hour, you could say that's a 3.5 hour chunk of time to do what once upon a time I would have got done in half an hour. So yeah, that's why it's been it's just been niggling and niggling. The thought has been niggling and niggling away at me all year that one of the reasons I'm behind is not just because I missed 4 weeks because of my back. One of the reasons I'm behind is because when I am here, I'm getting so little done in each session. How viable is that going forward? And this is what I mean about being practical and realistic. I just have to blow my nose, excuse me a second. That's better. That sneeze had really kind of dislodged things. Yeah, so this is the point about me saying about being practical, being pragmatic, being realistic. I can't devote all my time to the garden. I would dearly love to be able to, but I can't. So doing the garden serves me all sorts of purposes, but the main thing is it's my food. Great. However, if it starts to take me 40 hours or more every week to grow my food, I'm going to start to think that in my scenario, that's not worth it. That's crazy, because I have to earn a bit of income on top of growing my food in order to pay my bills. It would be different if, for example, excuse me, say I was on unemployment benefit and I was doing it, and I'm not, listen, God knows it's not much money, and my heart goes out to anyone who's struggling on benefits at the moment, but I'm just saying in this scenario where if I was renting a property, if I was renting my flat and I was on job seekers allowance and spending 40 weeks in the garden, well, I know that my rent is covered because my benefits will cover it, and I know I'd be getting that bit of job seekers allowance in to help me pay my bills and my extra bits and bobs of food on top. So I don't have that scenario, so I can't be in the garden 40 hours a week. I hope that came across right. I wasn't saying, I'm not, God knows I'm not being like, oh, lucky people on job seekers, they can spend all day in the garden. I don't mean it in that way at all. Or I suppose I should have put it another way. If, say, I had a partner who was working full time and they were covering the bills and I was in charge of being responsible for food, that would be a different scenario. But of course for me that's not the scenario. If I'm all the time in the garden, I'm not generating an income, just a bit of income that pays my bills. So this is what's been on my mind increasingly in the last few weeks, is I'm spending far too much in the time in the garden with far too little productivity. Once upon a time, if it had taken me 2 days a week to grow all my own food, and we're talking about £2,000 worth of food a year, because I weighed all my harvests a couple of years ago, and that's what it amounts to. It's about £2,000 a year. If I'm spending 2 days a week generating £2,000 worth of food, brilliant. But now, if I'm spending 7 days a week generating £2,000 worth of food, it starts to not be worth it. I mean, it's not worth it at all. There are other things that make it worth it, such as the company of people in the garden. And of course, you know, I quite often I'll get 1 or 2 videos from the garden each week. So that's been brilliant for my channel. I think you all know which way I'm heading with this conversation, don't you? This is where I'm going to get upset. Sorry. Big girl pants, big girl pants, big girl pants. I don't think it would be this hard. I think I'm going to have to give up the garden. That's the bottom line. Now, I just said I don't make decisions hastily. Certainly not one as huge as this. And this will be a huge, huge decision. This is a huge decision process because, like I said, this is my food. If I don't do the garden, I need to find £2,000 extra a year to buy food. If I don't do the garden, that's half of my YouTube channel gone overnight. And that represents about £3,000 a year. That's half my bills a year. That's really scary. It represents a lot of friendship and camaraderie, etc., for me. But it just, I'm going to see if I can keep going into next year, and see if I can do the garden next year, and see if this is just a particularly horrible year for me. What it feels like though is over the last few years, each year it's getting harder and harder and harder, and each year I'm kind of further and further behind. Despite, you know, I'm a good planner and well organised. The big thing for me about the garden this year is, and this is not how a garden should be, it's having the opposite effect on my mental health of what you want from a garden, which is that it makes us joyous, it makes us happy. At the moment, it's become this permanent stress. You know, when I'm not here, I'm thinking about it and worrying about it and thinking, when am I going to be able to do such and such a thing? Or I'm thinking about it and knowing the pain ahead of me to do it. And when I am here, it's quite miserable experience. You know, physically it's a miserable experience. So I know, listen, there's probably a load of trolls out there who are all shouting at the screen now, well, just pack it in, no one's making you do it, no one's got a gun to your head, blah, blah, blah. But it just isn't as easy as that, you know. It's not going to be easy to walk away from it, because it's so much of who I am. It's at the centre of my very being. Look, what I'm hoping is that next year when I move, I'm really, really, really hoping that I get somewhere with a bit of a garden, you know, even a tiny bit of a garden, so that way I can carry on getting my hands dirty, I can carry on growing a little bit of my own food, nowhere near as much, obviously, but I will still be able to grow a little bit, and from that I can, you know, bring you, you know, still keep that bit of my channel going. And if I can't do gardening videos, maybe I'll do cooking videos. And one of the things I have been thinking about so much this year already is I've been begrudging the garden how much time it takes away. And I know, because someone made this nasty comment a couple of weeks ago, she's blocked now, but she was like, well, if you shut up, you'd actually get something done. I'm only chatting here for half an hour while I'm taking a rest on my knees, and then I will be back to work. But yeah, so far this year, the garden has been taking up too much time. There are other things I want to do with my day. There are other things I need to do. I want to sew. I keep talking about that. So, you know what, maybe next year, a house with not a house, you know, a flat, a ground floor flat with a little bit of garden that is manageable for me. And giving up the plot here, you know what, so be it. The people here I would miss terribly, but what I'd do is I'd just be more proactive in terms of keeping relationships alive. So I would say to my friends, hey, come over to mine Saturday afternoon, you know, come over to mine, come and have a cup of tea in my garden. I'd have to be much more proactive rather than just, we're all so casual here, we just see each other and we end up chatting, and so I'd have to, you know, reach out to people to make those relationships continue. And just very quickly, I thought about this as well, because I'm just going to head a few things off at the pass, so I'm not sort of saying the same thing in comments over and over again. I know that because you're all lovely people and you're practical too, and you'll want to find solutions for me. I'm not asking for solutions. Trust me, I've thought through so many things that if there was a practical solution, I've probably thought about it quite a bit and discounted it as being not, you know, viable long term. A few of those being, what about getting friends to help? Firstly, I would need help. I'm needing help with it every single week. I can't expect my friends to help me every single week. My friends work. You know, they're all at work. And at the weekends, their weekends are precious. They're spending it with either their children or, you know, their elderly parents. All of our parents are getting older and needing more care now. Some of my friends are a bit older than me. At weekends, they're grandparents now. My friends are grandparents. So they're often babysitting their grandchildren. Some of my older friends are physically in a worse state than me. So, you know, there's no way I can keep this garden going at the level of productivity that I need it to be at to make it viable on the help of friends. It's just not possible. People are busy. My friends are busy, and I wouldn't, you know, I just wouldn't. A one-off thing of, would you mind watering my garden this weekend? Yeah, of course I'll ask a friend for help with that. But I can't ask someone, oh, can you dig a bed for me this weekend? And the following week, oh, can you dig another bed for me? Or can you dig another, you know, you see what I mean? Long term, that's not viable. Sharing the plot. We don't do shares on this site unless you share it with someone from your own household, or, you know, your partner, or possibly with sort of a relative or best friend, as I did when I first came here. So that wouldn't work. Having volunteers come to help. Again, it's that thing of doing it long term. What if a volunteer isn't available when I need them? What if we don't, you know, it's too much faffing and fannying. what I did think of some of the someone was saying to me the other day, why don't I change the plot to growing all perennials? Well, first of all, I don't like, like artichokes. Is it I don't like that kind of stuff. I like the perennial veg. I like cabbages. I like tomatoes. I like spinach. There's no point in changing the whole garden over to perennial veg that I don't particularly enjoy. And I would still have to come here and tend the garden. I'd still have to weed. I'd still have to mow the paths. I've still got that walk down here. And the chances are when I move, I'll be moving, I was thinking about this the other day, I'll be moving further away from the allotment because the roads around the allotment, I've been looking at house prices and flat prices. The immediate roads around here, they're the expensive roads. I can't afford it. I'm going to have to move further away. So yeah, there's all these possibilities. People have mentioned to me on numerous occasions, what about a mobility scooter or a bicycle to get me down to the garden? Well, at the moment, I don't have anywhere to keep one. I don't have any outdoor space, a shed at home. I'd have to, whatever I got here on, I'd have to carry up 60 stairs up into my flat. There's no way, I can't do that. So that's not practical either. So yeah, there's all sorts, I'm sure people are going to come up with all sorts of ideas because I know that you all know how much I love this and how much I have loved it. And you'll try and come up with anything to keep me here because I don't want to leave it, and I know you don't want me to leave it. God, it's so emotional. But the bottom line is, one of those ideas, yeah, it might work for 2 or 3 months, but that's just delaying the inevitable. So yeah, it's looking like it's going that way, that next year will probably be my last year here. It's tough, isn't it? I never thought I'd be saying it. You know what? Miracles happen. Maybe a miracle will happen in the meantime. But yeah, at the moment it's, and I think, I don't know, maybe it's been obvious in some videos, but I haven't been enjoying it. And life is too short to, like I was saying at the end of the other video, I ain't going to flog a dead horse. I'm going to flog a live horse either, but I think sometimes in life the bravest thing to do, the hardest thing, is to put your hand up and say, I can't do this anymore. So there we go. That's where my thoughts are at the end of month 61. Like I said, I don't want this to, be all, I know it's all coming over as negative. How can I put it? I want this to be as positive a thing as possible. I suppose, in a way, get your thoughts together. This is the reason I'm starting to think out loud about this now and share this with you now, even though things hopefully won't change for at least another year. It's, in a way, it's me sort of trying to take control of a situation, trying to take control of my life, where I have felt in the last few months has been going out of control. So if I grab this situation by the throat right now and say, look, it is a strong possibility that I'm going to be giving up this garden and this lovely shed in a year's time, 18 months' time, that gives me time to start to adjust, rather than just trying to pretend it's not happening, trying to pretend it's not happening, trying to pretend, and then suddenly one day next year I go, you know what, I've pushed it too far, and it's some sudden horrible shock, and I just go, that's it, and I walk away from it. Stuff happens, life changes. It's really important that we don't entrench ourselves in sticking with it the way we're doing something. Don't stick with it just for the sake of it, to prove a point or whatever it is, because I think I'm just going to do myself a disservice turning that whole negative around, because I do feel incredibly upset at the thought of it for many, many, many reasons. I feel incredibly, I feel absolutely heartbroken, actually. I know it's silly, isn't it? It's just a garden, but it's the garden, it's my friends, it's my life. I feel so safe and treasured here. I am heartbroken, but spinning that around to find the positives, because I always have to find the positives, and that is, you know what? Sorry, excuse me. See it as an opportunity to explore another part of me, another part of myself, and that is that, oh, sorry, excuse me. Like I said, when I move house, hopefully I'll get a bit of garden, so I can garden a little bit at home. So it won't be, I'm hoping that this won't be the absolute end of my gardening days completely. And you know what, even if it is, even if at some point next year, in the middle of next year, I give this up and I don't have a garden at home and I never ever do any gardening again, you know what? So what? It's not the end of the world. I mean, it kind of is to me. But I will do something else with my time. And I might discover something else. I might discover things about myself that I didn't even know. It might be that because I'm not spending all this time and physical pain time and emotional pain time, maybe that's when I finally sit down and start putting pen to paper and start writing, So, yeah, this door into the garden is beginning to creak shut. I'm beginning to lose sight of the garden. It's a little slither, I can still see it. But as that door closes, then you know what they say, another door opens. So, and one final note, because I know people will probably think this as well. They'll think, carry on, Vivi, it's looking great. What are you talking about? Trust me, it's getting too difficult. Weeds are everywhere. I'm coping with the weeds, but I still have beds not dug. I don't have seeds sown still, all of that. And there are people who come up with the analogy about how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. But using that analogy, here's the thing. What if that one bite you take out of the elephant makes you ill? What if taking that one bite from the elephant gives you, makes you vomit, gives you diarrhoea, and gives you such bad stomach cramps that you're awake all night in pain with stomach cramps? And what if the next day when you go back to bite the elephant, you know that it's going to make you ill again? And not only that the bite you took out yesterday has completely healed over, so you've got to retake that bite that you took yesterday. That's the analogy of resowing seeds, because the slugs have had them. So yeah, of course, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, except I'm vegetarian. But every time I'm taking a bite, it's making me ill. That's the bottom line of it. So, look, let's not be miserable. Let's think about the opportunities that not having a garden may afford me in the future, how it may, how things in my life may change. Let's hope that I can get a property with a little bit of outdoor space. Not too much, I can't manage too much, but something that I can manage. Let's hope that I can keep this garden going in a good enough state so that whoever gets this, whoever's at the top of the waiting list, I'm going to say lucky them, because it's quite a nice garden. There's no brambles on it. They'll inherit a nice garden from me. Let's hope, let's just keep hoping. But let's be realistic and let's be practical, and let's not do something for the sake of keeping face on YouTube or whatever it is. I'm not going to do this just so that I keep having gardening videos to put out. The price of that is way too much. Right, that's a long rambly one. I've burbled on. I've been weepy. Forgive that. It's the truth. The truth of practical life is yeah, it's being brave and putting your hand up and going, you know what, that's it, I'm out. So, I'm not quite out, so I will see you again really soon. Probably back in the garden. Oh, let's see if I can progress it a little bit to get us into the beginning of June. Let's see where we're at the beginning of June, and I already have, this is what we can do, you see. I'm being positive, I'm being practical. I have already adjusted some of my plans for the garden this year based on just how behind I am. So I'll organise a garden tour for the beginning of June fairly soon. I can share that with you and share how I am trying to stay positive despite the fact that I'm feeling quite sad about it all. Right, I'm not going to start crying again. I'm going to cry off camera. I will see you all again really soon, I hope. Please also, just to say very quickly, I don't want anyone worrying about me. I know some of you are going to feel really sad for me because you're going to think about how you would feel in a similar situation. Yeah, it is sad. But don't worry about me, because this is what I mean about taking control of decision making, taking control of the situation. Something good will come out of it eventually. Right now it just seems sad, but it will get happy again. All right, lovelies. Yeah, shut up, Vivi. Right, I need to get back out into the garden and do things. So I'll see you again really soon, I hope. But in the meantime, please look after yourselves. Look after each other. Make the most of today and plan for tomorrow. That beautiful bird's been singing to me all morning, now afternoon. It's lovely. See you soon, everyone. Cheerio.